Greetings, Guardians, and welcome back to a quick lore video. It's been some time since I've done some lore yapping for you guys, but I wanted to put out this quick video as like pretty much a catch-up. With Heresy coming out, there's a lot of connections to Season of the Witch previously, and I know that people had some hard times being caught up even in episode of Revenant, where they really didn't understand how Misrax was cursed by Nezarec. Clyde, I'm looking at you. But I kind of planned on doing a video to catch up that season, but I'll be honest, that season turned out to be pretty bland in my opinion. So I kind of just left it as it was and, you know, left it there. Heresy has been pretty great though. And I've enjoyed it thus far. The initiation into the season was such a roller coaster of emotions. But I wanted to kind of give this as a recap of Season of the Witch, and then also bring people up to speed with why we saw what we did at the beginning of Heresy, specifically with this cutscene.
Implied, and people joked about it, like, oh, what if, and this is confirming it.
Well, not even that. I mean, it was confirmed really hard throughout the lore books, but...
Hold up. Shut up. Shush, shush. The sword logic.
Oh, wait. Is she still considered a god? Is this her?
Is this her throne world? No fucking shot. Oh! Oh my god.
Oh.
The roller coaster I am on right now. What is happening?
I'm shaking.
Yo!
God.
Now, with that in mind, there is a lot to unpack there. A lot of you who maybe weren't around during Season of the Witch, or maybe didn't really pay attention, or maybe skipped the cutscenes and a lot of the important bits there, will probably be confused as to how Eris is supposedly alive just elsewhere. Well, this will kind of break it down. So, in Season of the Witch, we were entirely focused on forming some kind of an attack against Xivu Arath. But the problem with attacking Xivu and doing anything in terms of violence towards Xivu Arath was kind of pointless. The reason being is Xivu Arath is the Hive God of War. With her being the Hive God of War, if we do anything in terms of violence or going out and killing her hive, her, dread, her, essentially any of her armies, we would just be feeding her ties of war. We would be feeding her and her endeavors because she feeds off of war. She feeds off of that interaction entirely. So we needed to find something new. We needed to find a new way to approach her, attack her, and eventually strike a blow. In order to do that, what Eris did is she decided to full dive into the Hive rituals, becoming a Hive witch herself, but not only that, pushing it to the boundaries by eventually making herself a Hive god. Now, in Season of the Witch, it was kind of like a pseudo-Hive god. Eris went through a pretty gnarly transformation, which can be seen in this cutscene.
Xivu Arath draws strength from our conflict. She believes her logic absolute. I will grasp it and contravene its power. There is no other way.
Will you come back from this?
Does it matter if I do? What I am has served me, and has served humanity.
Aka, Zita, Sel. This is what Savathun wants.
We serve our interests, not Savathun's.
She's outmaneuvered you again. You need me.
We need your silence. Do not be afraid. Bear witness to my sublimation. I separate the true from the dead. I am the many-mouthed hunger. I am the knife-edged truth. I devour the free. I conspire with my vengeance. I will take what I need. The words in my throat are the weapon in my fist. Hayat! Hayat! Hayat!
I am the knife-edged truth. Bring me your tithes.
And after that transformation, she, at that point, labeled herself as the Hive God, Vengeance. Now, in doing this, of course, we eventually had to keep running our seasonal activity and whatnot because she required tithes of vengeance from us as the Guardian. We were fueled by all of our lost, comrades and everything that had kind of happened to us up at that point, and we would come back to Eris and essentially feed her those tithes. Now, whenever we did that, obviously, Savathun isn't always close by when we're dealing anywhere close with her sister. There seem to be some familial issues going on that Savathun wants to handle herself, as some of you may have seen already in Heresy, where she threatened us. With doing that, though, even though Savathun was close by, that's where we found out about the 13th wish, and, we found out that there is a way to get one final wish out of Riven, and we need the tithes of vengeance and everything, and we need to power Eris up in order to cast that wish. As we went along in Season of the Witch, we ended up finding out that we were running out of time. We didn't have a lot of time to keep collecting tithes. It's a slow process. In order for Eris to get to her full potential, we would have to be killing and killing and killing non-stop, and we didn't have that time. So, what we decided is, in order to get that 13th wish, in order to allow us into the Traveler, which is what we were using it for, to find a way in and be able to stop the witness, since this was before we actually, completed Final Shape, we had to do something unconventional. We had to once again trick and attack Savathun. Now, how did we do that? Well, we gave Eris as many ties as we could, gave her as much power as we could, and then, whenever Savathun got just a little too close, that is when Eris struck her. There was the cutscene we got where Savathun was pretty much praising and welcoming her new sister, as they all call them. And that's when Eris took whatever blade she had fashioned and cut Savathun down. And what she did was she took the power and essentially drained Savathun of her tithes herself to give her enough power to then use that power to rip Xivu Arath from her throne world. This ties into what we're seeing here, because we obviously knew that Xivu Arath would be very, very, very upset. So ripping her from her throne world means that she is vulnerable and able to die even in our plane of existence. They don't need to go back to the Ascendant plane and be killed there, like Savathun or like Oryx, in order to be permanently dead in terms of their logic and their existence. For a quick recap for those of you who may be confused by that statement, the Hive Gods and the Sword logic gave them the ability to cut from one plane into another. So they were able to cut themselves a piece of the Ascendant plane out that became their home, and they called these throne worlds. So, similar to how Savathun could be seen in the physical realm by the Guardians and be attacked and everything, if we killed her in our existence, she would not be dead. She would simply flee back or, appear back in her throne world, and then they would regenerate as their hive god selves. They would take the time to recoup, to repower themselves, and then they would emerge again from their throne world, terrorizing us once again, which is how they've lasted this long. Oryx's throne world was on the Dreadnought. Savathun's was in her own throne world that we've been to multiple times, and we attacked her in throughout Witch Queen. And then Xivu's, we did not know where it was, and instead of wasting the time to find it, Eris decided we're going to do something even worse and completely sever her connection from her throne world. Meaning that Xivu is vulnerable to die anywhere in our world, and she cannot ever return to her own throne world. With this, now that we know that that is how the hive gods and goddesses operate, let's round back to our new hive god, Eris, the hive god of vengeance. In this cutscene, we see that she awakens. She's even shocked herself. She starts patting herself where she was impaled, and she's trying to figure out what happened, but she seems to realize pretty swiftly, just like my friend and I did, that what we're seeing is, even though Eris used all of that power to sever Xivu from her throne world, and we were worried that essentially, she may never be a hive goddess again, we're getting confirmation here that the world, or at least maybe the sword logic, still considers her a god. She's waking up in her throne, and she's realizing, I'm okay. I'm alive. I can regenerate, recoup my energy, and I can live. Simply through what she stole from the hive. And it's even more ironic for Eris because, just a small piece of her lore, all of her lore is about stealing from the hive. That piece of chitin that she walks around with is stolen from the hive. When she was in the Pit of Heresy originally with her fire team, when everyone else died, the way that she survived is, and the reason she has those eyes, is that she stole those eyes from Hive Knights and gave them to herself. This feeds into a little bit of a theory I have, but we'll see it, if it ends up connecting for me. It's a very long shot, but in terms of that as well, now that we know that she's considered a god still and has now woken up in her throne world, I am a bit worried that she's going to go through a much more serious transformation where she may no longer be Eris born. She may be reborn, just like Savathun, Oryx, and Xivu Arath were, from what she is as a guardian to a full-blown hive god. Now, to briefly go over that, the hive were the Krill beforehand, and Savathun was known as Sathona, Xivu Arath was known as Zero, and Oryx was known as Orash. And then whenever they were led astray by the Witness and the Worms, they went into the Deep, which is kind of their version of calling the Taken and the Ascendant Plane the Deep. And then when they emerged, they came out as the Hive, and they were then deemed Savathun, the Queen of Cunning, Oryx, the Taken King, and Zero, the Hive God of War. So I feel that we're going to see the same kind of transformation from Eris, and there's one thing in particular that leads me to this. And that is the lore card that we get with the Coronation Shell. I was lucky enough with doing all of my grinding for the exotic this season that I have acquired the shell. And so I read the lore page, and this is how it reads. For ghosts who serve royalty. The edge of a knife, or is it a cliff? Egregore sprouts from my hands, welcoming. A smooth shard of metal bursts from my chest. A needle, an initiation. I am threaded into the pages of a book, bound, my pain transcribed, waiting to be opened. The edge recedes, both falling and ascending, rejoining a memory, familial. I see those left behind, craning to watch me drift away, their sorrow a coronation. Lay your flowers, sisters. I am home. Now, this very clearly to me is, since this looks like an Eris Morn ghost and is identified that way, and it starts out with for ghosts who serve royalty, that would mean serving a hive god. This also talks about the blade emerging from their chest. Eris was impaled in the beginning of the season, and this is their initiation to becoming a god. But then they mention being written into a book, threaded into pages. But then the biggest thing that ties this all together for me is the statement, their sorrow a coronation. So what she's talking about is seeing those left behind are like Drifter, where he's holding her and craning over her. All of us standing over her and craning our necks forward, looking down at her. And that sorrow is feeding this initiation. For those of you who are big lore nerds like myself, this seems like Eris's transformation statement, specifically because lay your flowers, sisters, I am home, their sorrow a coronation, and the gods were talked about in the book Sorrow. They each have their own book, Sorrow, and this ties even further into Season of the Witch for those of you who read the lore pages like myself, because even back on Season of the Witch, we were filling out a lore page that was called Sororicide. So brothers and sisters attacking themselves, fighting themselves, and there are so many connections from the front page of this book. On the top right, we have Savathun's logo for Witch Queen. On the bottom left, we have Xivu Arath's symbol for her hive armies. And on the bottom right, we have the Taken King logo for Oryx. But on the top left, you have Eris Morn's logo. The sigil that she has worn on every piece of armor, anything that is ever related to her from the Eidolon set, from the Nightmare season, and then up until now, that symbol that has been on her chest is included in this book. And Savathun throughout these pages even calls this a new book of sorrow. Now, there are some other small connections which are kind of funny and goofy. On the middle, where you see these kind of like crude hive faces. If you guys have seen the heretical halation emblem that we've been given recently, from gifting a sub over on Twitch to a streamer, you'll see that this same little crude hive face is made out of this pink web and electricity on this emblem. And so I feel that everything is going to tie into the fact that Eris is going to become a hive goddess, and they are going to be taken into the hive royalty. They're going to have their Book of Sorrow. They're going to have their own warriors that will probably be us and or Drifter. And we're just going to see that kind of develop forward. Will it be as exciting as I hope? Hopefully. Bungie always seems to do hive lore and story, not correct. I don't want to say correct, but they always do it justice. It always feels very good, very thought out, very fleshed out. Especially with just kind of shocking us, because Drifter is obviously mourning the death of Eris, but he doesn't seem to make the connection. And of course, technically we weren't there, and we don't know if our Guardian does, but for us, we can make the connection of knowing she's alive, but she has her own throne, and we have to prepare to go to that throne world and eventually interact with her. We don't know if she'll be friend or foe. I hope friend. It'll be kind of moving along that whole, gathering enemies as, friendlies with the Cabal and the Fallen, and of course the last and kind of enemies to bring along are the Hive and the Vex, and I don't think the Vex are ever really going to listen to us, especially after our little bout with Maya Sundaresh. But hopefully this has helped catch you guys up just a little bit from Season of the Witch to now, maybe filled in some gaps and helped answer some questions in terms of how the Hive work and kind of what to expect with the changes coming to Eris. If you guys want, I've been streaming a lot of Destiny and getting through a lot of the grinding and helping people along in the dungeon and things like that. So come visit us over on Twitch. And of course, if you do like the Destiny lore videos, I've got quite a few other videos that I've posted over time. Obviously, I've been getting into other games like Deadlock, Rivals, and whatnot, but I did want to come back and give everyone this kind of catch-up since this season does seem to be really, really good, and we can kind of compact everything into one video just to catch you up on the most important things from Season of the Witch, and then show you how that connects into Eris's sudden transformation and not so much death. So, if you guys enjoyed, I would appreciate the sub and the like. I've been pumping a lot of work into YouTube lately, and of course on Twitch, but YouTube has been such a hard focus. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next one.